Hi, this is Gomathi Ramalingam, and today our topic is Unchaining the Future, Embracing the Power of Blockchain. So, a little bit about me. I have close to 2 decades of experience across various domains like insurance, healthcare, retail, property, and of course, blockchain. Maybe a reason why my son sometimes compares me to a dinosaur. I currently head my QA team at Chain. So we at Chain have built a blockchain-based platform that bridges the gap between Web2 and Web3, and it's constantly being evolved. Let's say we are blockchain addicts. I love going out for runs because it helps me to align my thoughts and keep my head and my mind clear. And I'm proud to say I have completed the London Marathon twice. We as a family enjoy traveling because experience is the best teacher in life. And as a tester, I don't have to explain that any better. That's about me. Before we get to the workings of blockchain and the use cases around it, let's get a quick basics check, shall we? So, what is Web 1, Web 2, and Web 3? Good old days that I'm sure many of you wouldn't have experienced is when the modem takes almost 10 long minutes to connect. And all you have to do is wait for the light to turn from red to amber to green to connect to the internet and to just look at some basic HTML pages and read what's on it. So welcome to Web 1. Then in early 2000s, we had a bit change with companies like Google, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, who came along and provided the ability to comment on contents, expanded our ability to watch, learn, search, and even to communicate. But both Web 1 and Web 2 were centralized, are centralized, as in an entity was managing the data or the content that's created by you, and they're still free. Top tip here, when something is free, you are the product. So let's talk about Web 3 now. So the seeds of Web 3 was sown in 1991, but it got accepted during about 2009 when Bitcoin took off and Ethereum gave way to not just crypto, but also to blockchain based project developments. I would highly recommend for you all to try and read The Origin of Blockchain, and I promise it will be fascinating. And here, as in Web3, what makes the huge difference is you are not the product, but you are the owner. So, what is blockchain? It's just not crypto, not smart contract, not wallets or nodes. It is a technology that encompasses the ones I have mentioned before. In simple words, blockchain is chain of blocks. Imagine a huge distributed public ledger across the entire globe, and the ownership is being tracked and shared. Or as Gavin would say, one computer for the entire planet, where you can add contents or write into it, but it can never be deleted or altered. The ledger permanently records the history of all transactions amongst the members of the network in a linear and chronological order. Every transaction recorded in the ledger has a timestamp and a unique cryptographic signature or hash associated with it. Once the information is on the blockchain, it cannot be changed or tampered, thus showcasing the immutable nature of the technology. So, how do I trust if everyone can see my data, right? Like, as in, how can I trust the decentralized network? Think about it as if there is no centrally managed data or a specific government entity. If you're a content creator and you want it to be public facing, just publish it. If the content is to be agreed between two or more parties, then place it in a common ledger accessible by the relevant people. And lastly, if it needs to be private, then simple, keep it secretive and never reveal it. As information is encrypted and identities are hidden, trust becomes a natural thing on this trustless technology. Catch up is done. let's come to the main show. How does a blockchain work? Prerequisite is that a smart contract needs to be created, deployed on the chain using different ways. It could be plugins, it could be SDKs, or a basic UI. So, what is a smart contract? A smart contract is a program that executes tasks when conditions are met. Terms of agreement are written into code and executed automatically when conditions are met. This allows to perform credible transactions without third parties being involved. Ethereum is one of the main platforms for creating and deploying smart contracts using its Solidity programming language. Now that we understand what smart contract is, let's send in a transaction to meet a condition within a smart contract that's deployed on the chain. Once the requested transaction is created, it is broadcasted to on a peer-to-peer network consisted of computers known as nodes. The nodes in the blockchain network validate the transaction for authenticity based on the consensus algorithm used by the network itself. And once a unified approval is received, the transactions get added to the memory pool. When a block is ready to be created, the new block is appended to the existing blockchain in a way that is permanent and unalterable. And this marks the completion of transaction. So how does testing in a blockchain-based application work? It involves all relevant software methodologies like functional, non-functional, security, user experience, etc., just like how we do for any software testing. And we also add some basic blockchain specific ones. Let's start with testing a smart contract. So we test the smart contract before and after it's deployed. We test it before it's being deployed because once it's deployed, it is highly impossible to go and alter it. And that's the nature of blockchain itself. So how do we test it? We test the functionalities that the conditions are met before the smart contract is deployed onto the chain. And also just along with it, we test it across various networks, different chains, different nodes, single node, multiple nodes, a full node, all sorts of nodes. So that's about testing the smart contract itself. And let's come to the transaction side of things. So there are events that are emitted when a condition is met. So testing the correctness of the events that are emitted is a way to test the transactions. So the event needs to be emitted when a condition is met, and it should not be emitted when the condition is not met. That's one way. Raise conditions to ensure the functionalities are executed in the right order becomes crucial for a test strategy from a transaction standpoint. And once all the manual flow has been tested and completed and by the tester, the next step is to automate the flows to reduce efforts on repetitive testing and use those hours saved towards exploratory testing, which will help to enhance testing edge cases and customer experience. So this is all about testing around smart contract transactions. Now, post-deployment, monitoring is essential from a hacking point of view. Blockchain is still new. The adoption is still happening and hacking is happening. So we need to ensure that once it's deployed, that monitoring and keeping alert is key for blockchain-based applications. Now, what are the trends in our blockchain world? Blockchain has the power to transform many industries like manufacturing, supply chain, farming, and Internet of Things. Let's take the automotive sector, for example. The immutable aspect of blockchain could potentially make selling a used car a lot safer and more secure. It could list the previous MOTs, the service history, and the owners on the blockchain for all the relevant parties to see. The logging of information on one system is more authentic and gives the buyer the trust and the confidence in the vehicle when making a purchase. We have also started to see many merchants, both e commerce and physical stores, accept payments in stable coins. It's much cheaper than credit cards, and your liquidity is not wrapped up over the weekend because the settlement is almost instantaneous, obviously, depending on the type of blockchain it is. And pretty much anything can be tokenized, with blockchain allowing records to be kept on multiple computers, i.e., the nodes. Data security is enhanced, meaning data loss from thefts, fires, catastrophes are greatly reduced. It is also virtually impossible to delete or tamper with the records once they have been implemented, reducing the chances of fraud. So, as a conclusion, it is only a matter of time for blockchain adoption to become a norm in every industry. And so, what's the link to Jurassic World from our slide two? Wait for our next meet to discuss about it. And until then, thank you, happy testing, happy learning.